Hi everyone. This is the second installment in our cloning series. So I just want to summarize last time what we had looked over. We basically ended up looking at reproductive cloning and therapeutic cloning. Okay, so two different forms of artificial cloning. I've also got to this point here where I asked you guys to take this survey in terms of, what are your thoughts about several artificial processes that involves in vitro fertilization, genetic engineering, cloning, etc. Okay. Now, I'll do this particular survey, with you just to show you some of my beliefs and thoughts. Okay. I don't mind doing this because I do know that some teachers, they want to be private and such, but everyone has a right to their opinions, and including myself. There are things I believe in, and they may not be the same as what you believe in, and that's okay. Okay, as long as we all keep an open mind about things and basically accept that your thoughts and beliefs are just as valid as my thoughts and beliefs. Okay, so if we come into argument, we argue, but at the end of the day, each of us may have our own points of being correct, and I guess it's up to us to either convince the other person to change their mind or not. Okay, so let's look at some of these controversial ideas. The first one, to provide infertile couples using test tube in vitro fertilization with more embryos to increase their chances of conceiving. Okay, do you approve or not? Well, if a couple is infertile, okay, and if in vitro fertilization is their only, means, then I would approve of that, okay, because it does give them a little bit of hope of having a child. B, to make it easier for scientists to screen embryos for inherited abnormalities, okay, so different types of genetic disorders. And I typically do agree with using cloning technology for this kind of purpose as well. To produce babies whose vital organs can be used to save the life of others, such as a sibling, require a bone marrow transplant. Well, this one I don't disapprove. This one I disapprove. Okay, I don't agree with it. Again, mostly the fact that you're producing an individual. Okay, so they're saying babies. If you were to produce just the organs, okay, through cloning, then I'm fine with that. But using a full life form just to benefit another, I don't approve. To make it possible for parents to have a twin at a later date, I don't approve of it, but I know that in the past there are some people that actually they don't mind. Okay, if you want a twin at a later date and this is what you're going to do to get that twin, okay, well, I guess that could be a parent's decision, but depending on their first child, I think they may have a say in that, and I don't know if they would actually approve or disapprove. Okay, it's kind of like saying to you guys, hey, wouldn't you like to have a twin right now? Okay, another identical person that looks exactly like you, but not the same age, of course, but younger? It might be odd. E, to establish embryo banks from which prospective parents could select a child with genetically desirable traits. Ooh, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence on this one. Okay, as a biologist, I kind of understand not the need, but the ability to be able to have these banks of genetic traits all categorized, right? I think that's a good thing, but then to actually use it, for now, I'm going to disapprove. Let's see, to make it possible for societies to clone and reproduce a number of individuals with genetically desirable traits for specific purposes. Again, this I kind of disapprove. Okay, I mean, I think that everyone should have the right to figure out what they want to do. Okay, and if for some reason you can't do it, I think it's also part of, your life's work to find something else, right? I mean, we all go through that. I didn't always want to be a teacher, okay? At one point, I wanted to be a doctor, and I realized that my hands were too shaky. I have a nasty fear of blood. Okay, I don't like cutting people open. Okay, I like cutting other things open, but other living, breathing humans, it makes me queasy. So again, I just accepted the fact that I'm not going to be a doctor, and I decided to find something else to do. G. Your 2-month-old baby is about to be taken off life support. You and your partner can no longer conceive children. Would you clone the child if it were an option? Huh. See, I'm not a parent. Okay? If I were, I could really see this as an appealing option, but I would have to disapprove. Okay? If that child dies, then that child is gone, and we need to say our goodbyes. Do you consider rejecting an 8-cell embryo produced in a lab to be an abortion? Well, okay. So the 8-cell embryo stage, just to give you some context in terms of how early the development is, an 8-cell embryo, okay, is basically achieved by the 3rd day. Okay, so in this case, no, I don't actually consider this to be an abortion. Okay, but some people may disagree with that, because for some people, they actually think that the moment a sperm fertilizes an egg, okay, once that kickstarts the entire process for that new individual, then that is basically a human life. Okay. To me, at the 8-cell stage, it's just still a ball of cells. Okay, I also have tissues that are basically more advanced, and there's more numbers of them, but personally, I wouldn't consider it to be an abortion. My kind of personal, I guess, boundary in this case would probably be the first heartbeat. Okay, when the first heartbeat arrives, or even perhaps the first brainwave activity, okay, then I would consider it to be a fully formed life, and it's too late to go back. But again, it's just personal opinion there. Okay, a lot of people do have differences in opinions about this particular topic. And the last one, if scientists were able to produce new organs using your cells and cloning technology, would you consider receiving them? Yes. Okay. If you're using organs from my own cells and you're not really harming others, I think I'd be okay with that. Okay, if I need a new liver, okay, just take one of my liver cells and basically go through the process of therapeutic cloning to clone me a new liver. Okay, it doesn't mean that I'm going to live forever, but I think in some cases, if that damage was accidental, then yeah, this would be a good way to fix my damaged liver. Now I know, because the liver is also responsible for cleansing toxins, and people who are alcoholics, okay, again, not saying it's, if the technology is there, that I would start drinking to the point where my liver fails and then I just get a new liver. Okay, like that I kind of don't agree, but we do have choices to make, and for me, if my organs are getting older and I can replace them with newer ones using my own cells, it's no different than buying a new sweater or hoodie once my old sweater and hoodie gets all old and full of holes. Okay, so that's kind of my thoughts on it. Okay, what were your thoughts? I hope that some of them were similar. I mean, they are your thoughts. Okay, so no one can really say whether they were right or wrong. But I think a lot of us do share, like as a society, do share similar values and opinions. So once you have that established, okay, once these questions start arising, okay, things that you may never have thought of, this would be a good time to now look at all the different arguments for and against human cloning. Okay, so I'm not going to go through every single one of these arguments. Okay, but for the most part, the arguments against, okay, they are based in things like religion. Okay, so cloning is against God's will, but most of them are based in the unknown. Okay, we don't know what's going to happen. Okay, we don't know how safe this technology is. We don't know what's going to happen to the clones. Okay, whether they have rights of their own or not. Okay, because again, I can see in some governments, human clones that are developed this way, maybe they do have rights, maybe they don't. Okay, we're basically redefining what it means again to be human, or even how we are born. So this list of arguments here all kind of lean towards that kind of idea. And if you read the arguments for human cloning, okay, again, a lot of them are based upon genetic research. Okay, and again, I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but a lot of them are based on research. A lot of them are based on medicine. Okay, they also do factor in the idea that even though you have a clone, that clone might look like you, they may talk like you or sound like you, but they're not really the same person. Okay, because everyone here is affected by their environment. Okay, their experiences. The good things, the bad things that happen to us throughout our lives, they all shape us in some way. So unless that clone has gone through exactly the same type of experiences, they're technically not like you. Okay, even two natural twins, they're individuals. They have their own thoughts, they have their own beliefs. They don't have to agree on everything the other person does, right? They are their own individuals, and the pro argument, basically kind of says the same thing. Clones are just individuals as well. Okay, the consequences of how how they're born doesn't matter. Okay, it's what they do with this gift of life that actually matters. So let's look at making right decisions and wrong decisions. You can make a right decision, voting for Biden, or you can make a wrong decision, like voting for Trump. A little bit too early for this? Maybe. But when we're looking at controversial topics, okay, in biotechnology, there are often paths that would lead us to a more correct choice, okay, and there are paths that will likely lead us to an incorrect choice, okay. So what I mean is, whenever you're learning something new, okay, and controversial, suspend your opinions for just a minute. Okay. It doesn't mean to ignore them. It's just telling you to hold back. Okay. What you should do first is to look at the facts. Okay. What can be done? Not what should be done, but what can be done. And then secondly, look at how it's done. Okay. Not what you're going to do with it. Okay, because people can tell you a lot of things that cloning can, what people who clone other things will do with those clones, right? Okay, for right now it doesn't matter. Just look at the facts. What can we accomplish with this technology? How do we accomplish it? Okay. Make your decisions based on the facts, not someone else's opinions. Okay. Someone else's opinions will kind of persuade you to their path, their train of thought. Okay, I mean, that's exactly what they want, but you're old enough to make your own decisions, and it should be based upon your own facts, okay, that you've researched, and what kind of impact those facts have on your own moral and ethical beliefs. Okay, so we're going to look at how cloning actually works. So this is the actual cloning process. First, you need to remove the egg, okay, from the individual. Once you have that egg removed, you need to remove the egg's nucleus. Okay. Now remember, this is the nucleus of an egg, so there's only half the genetic information in there anyways. It's not going to be useful to us. We just want the actual egg cell. We don't care about the egg's instructions. Next, you're going to take a body cell. Okay. It technically doesn't matter which body cell or somatic cell, okay, as long as it has a nucleus that has the full set of genetic information from the individual that you want to be cloned. And you're going to basically remove that nucleus by a process called somatic nuclear transfer. Okay, so once you've taken that nucleus out of the desired cell, you're going to inject it into the egg, okay, by this process of somatic nuclear transfer. Once that new nucleus is inside of the egg, okay, what we do is we need to give it a little kickstart. Okay, so we're going to electroshock the egg so that the egg now knows it needs to start dividing. Once the egg starts to divide, okay, it'll make copies of itself, and every single cell that comes afterwards has that new genetic information that you've taken from the body cell. Okay, so once that mass of cells has already begun to divide and grow, you will implant that quote-unquote fertilized egg into a surrogate mother for reproductive cloning. Okay, so when you put it back into the mother, that person will basically carry the clone for the full term, okay, until it's ready to be born. So now you have cloned an entire organism, okay, based on the body cell, okay, of the individual that you wanted to clone. Okay, so at this step here, if this is the route that you're going to reproduce and clone a full living organism. Okay, now you could also go in opposite direction. Okay, so instead of implanting the egg into a surrogate mother, you can implant the egg onto a petri dish, okay, to make stem cells. If you're going to go this route, then you're going for therapeutic cloning. Okay, you're most likely going to be cloning a certain organ or mass of tissues, okay, rather than the full individual. Okay, so that's why therapeutic cloning is only cloning parts of an organism, and reproductive cloning is cloning the entire organism. Okay, so in 1996, the first successful clone, okay, was Dolly the sheep. Okay, and this is the first successful clone of a mammal. There have been many clones of other lesser animals, like invertebrates, but this is the first time that a living mammal had survived. Okay, and the process itself is, again, very similar to the process that I had described earlier. Eggs are taken out, the egg is removed, the nucleus of the egg is removed, a new nucleus is taken out and put into that egg, okay, electroshocked so that the egg starts to divide, and then that embryo is put back into the surrogate mother, or in this case the foster mother, and the foster mother will basically give birth to a new clone. This image here, okay, same kind of idea, but it's also highlighting how you basically clone organ or parts of the body. Okay, and here they use stem cells. So think of stem cells as a template. Okay, these are special cells that can grow into any type of cell in the body. Okay, they are a blank slate, just waiting for information to be given to them so that they can actually develop into any kind of tissue or organ. Okay, and that's why stem cells are actually very, very important. Okay, but the thing is, there's also controversies about the stem cells themselves, which I won't get to here. Okay, but perhaps in class we'll talk a little bit more about stem cells, where they come from, and what other uses do humans or people have with stem cells. Okay, like naturally. Okay. So just to give you a brief history of cloning. Okay, like I said, Dolly the sheep was not the first clone. So one of the very first cloning experiments was basically done in 1952 with frogs. Okay, and then they started getting a little bit more complex. Okay, they tried to clone mammals. Okay, failed. Okay, but then Dolly basically survived, and Dolly only survived several years. Okay, it wasn't like a perfect, healthy sheep. Okay, she did have some problems. Okay, that was a result of her cloning, but she was considered the first successful clone. And then afterwards, it just opened up the gates to, cloning lots of different other types of mammals. Okay, um, this part here in 2001, this was kind of a surprise to me, but human embryos were cloned, but they never grew bigger than 6 cells. Okay, so someone had tried it, but it wasn't allowed to go past 6 cells, which again, sometimes I wonder if someone had actually done this unofficially somewhere in the world. They had just cloned a human and not really saying anything about it, right? Because in 2002 and 2004, okay, there were people that basically said, yeah, we did clone the first humans, and again, hasn't been verified, or at least has been verified as a hoax. But one of the most interesting things about cloning, okay, in 2009, okay, a Pyrean ibex was actually cloned, and an ibex, it's a mammal that kind of looks like a goat, okay, kind of looks like this guy right here, okay, like this particular organism had been extinct since the year 2000, okay, but scientists had tissue samples from them, okay, so from those frozen cells, they were able to, again, go through the same process of reproductive cloning and successfully cloned a female ibex. Okay, but unfortunately, that ibex shortly died after a lung defect. This idea kind of sounds a lot like Jurassic Park, right? And basically, cloning is one of the technologies that can actually be used to bring back extinct species of organisms. And that's kind of amazing. Okay, but again, some people are reluctant to do this, but you can't help but wonder, okay, if I had some dinosaur DNA, if I can actually bring back the dinosaurs, okay, from extinction, or even animals that have been extinct recently, they're no longer extinct if we can successfully clone them and start a new population. But but sometimes people would argue, is there a point where we might go too far? Okay, and that is the debate. It's all about your ethics. Ethics are the moral principles that guide your actions, okay, and your beliefs, your behaviors. There's a lot of things that influence ethics, okay, especially in biology and genetics. So morals are your sense of what's right and what's wrong. It would play into your ethics. The amount of research, the knowledge that you have in terms of how something works, again, should play a role in building your ethics. Your code of conduct. Okay? These are a series of rules that you live by, that you can govern or influence your actions, okay, in terms of what you do. All of that contributes to your ethics as well. The ethical code. Now these are sets of rules that influences your judgment. Okay? It's very similar to a code of conduct, but your conduct influences actions, whereas your ethical code influences your judgment and your beliefs. And of course, your values. Everyone has values. These are the things that you deem important. Okay? So whatever you deem important obviously should play into your ethics as well. And then finally, rules. Okay? These are rules either in the classroom, in society, okay, government. these are all the rules that society has built. Okay, so they're not necessarily your rules, but if you believe in them, if you follow them, these rules now become a part of your ethics. So there's a lot of things that are happening that determine what your ethics are. And based on your ethics, you in turn have to make decisions, okay, about certain types of technology, like cloning, for example. So when we get back into the classroom, we'll talk a little bit more about the entire cloning process briefly, but we'll also look at the pros and cons. Okay, so for now, think about 5 reasons how or why cloning can change society. Okay, how can it be a benefit to society? Okay, and then look at the counter argument. Give maybe 5 reasons why we should ban cloning or stop this technology from developing because it's harmful. Okay, so that concludes the cloning series. There is a third biotechnology that we'll go through as well called DNA fingerprint. So that's all for me today. We'll look at some of the pros and cons when we get back to class, and the next video series that you'll watch will basically be about DNA fingerprinting. All right, see you around. Bye.